Welcome back to the Cat Knit Podcast. My name is Grace and today is Friday, April 27th. Last week was a long episode and I think this week will also be another long episode because I have a lot to talk about. We have some knitting and we have some non-knitting crafty items, which are super exciting, and then some organizational things, which is always nice when it comes to your crafty organizational things. I don't know about you, but I like to be organized. And then some baking items, which is super exciting. So like always, if you would like to see links to things that I talk about in this podcast, they'll be linked on the show notes. I realize I've forgotten to say that at the top of the episode the past couple of weeks, so I do apologize, but they are there if you would like to go check them out. If you're on YouTube, that'll be linked down below, or if you're on my blog, they'll be down below. In addition to that, there's all my various social medias that you can follow me on. There's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Ravelry. I feel like I need my fingers to like help me list them off, but I don't know. I just almost did it without it and that didn't work. Anyway, if you'd like to follow me on those social medias, you are more than welcome to. I am most active on Instagram. I post pictures there all the time, always liking things, all that jazz. They'll be linked in all the various places, so go and check those out. So I think that is it for this intro. If you would like to grab something tasty to drink, I have coffee today, and you can't see it on this side, but on this side there are polar bears because that is an accurate season of what we're in. It's really not, that's I'm being sarcastic. It's very nice and beautiful out today, but it's just such a cute mug. I don't really like to put it away during the non-winter months because it's just so cute. Anyway, that's not relevant. If you would like to go and get something tasty to drink or something to snack on or something to craft on while you spend some time with me, which I greatly appreciate, you can come back and join me for some crafty chat. Also, before I continue, our apartment complex apparently is very busy today with lots of loud vehicles, so if you hear them in the background, I do apologize, but hopefully they won't be too big of a distraction. Knitting for this week. I have one old thing and I have one new thing. And it's funny because one of them, the old thing, is drastically old and the new thing is drastically new. So new because I cast it on yesterday. But we're gonna go over the old thing first. It's my Starting Point Mystery Knit Along by Joji Locatelli that I've never finished, but I'm so close. I made so much progress last week. By so much progress, I mean that I am done-ish with one of the sides and I'm almost done with the second side. And when I say done, I mean I'm ready to join them together, which is like the end is in sight. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So that is very exciting. Which side is this? Okay, so this is the finished side because you put both sides of the little thingy on different needles or a stitch holder or whatever, so that is very exciting. And like I mentioned last time I talked about this, as I hit myself in the head with knitting needles, I messed up on the colors. This section was supposed to be, this was right. I messed up those two down there, I think. I think that's what happened. I messed up something. Colors were not in the right spot. But I really don't care because I really like, sorry my yarn is falling off my lap. I love the way it looks. So that's super exciting. Fun times. This is the side that I have finished. The side that I've been working on, I'm in the lace pattern on this side, so that's great. I still have, I'm almost done with the lace section, and then I have the big garter eyelet section, which doesn't take very much time at all, but super happy with how this is turning out. Now that I'm kind of like closer to the finish line, like I can see the finish line, I can see myself wearing it, I can see myself weaving in all these bazillions of ends. It's very motivating to get this thing done because it's been on the needles for far too long, which is not a bad thing, but I would really, really love to get it done. I'm sure you can relate to that. If you were a knitter and just have things that have languished on the needles for years, months, however long, you can probably relate to that. And you can see it sitting in your pile of works in progress wherever it's located, and it's just like staring you in the face, and it's like, you haven't finished me yet, but you know you should because I've been on the needles for a really long time. And you're like, oh, but there's so many other things I want to work on. I'm not very inspired to work on you right now because I know there's a lot left to do or whatever. So, does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I'm so close to being done. I do have a Ravelry page where all my yarns are listed, so I will link that in the show notes for you to go check out if you would like. Again, this is the Starting Point shawl wrap. I think it's the wrap. It's called The Starting Point. It's by Joji Locatelli. This was originally a mystery knit-along, so we didn't know what it was going to look like, which was very exciting, and we had clues. And I was doing so well with the clues. I was like right on track, and then something happened. I think I cast something else on, or like we just got really busy, and then I lost it all. But that's okay. It's almost done, so that's all that really matters. So my new cast on is very exciting. First of all, it's living in this Quince & Company bag that I found when I was going through all my knitting possessions, and I found a whole bunch of old bags, so I'm really excited to be bringing them all out. There's plastic in here, so I apologize for the crinkling. I've mentioned the past couple of weeks that there is a knit-along my mom and I are doing together for her birthday. We ordered the yarn a couple of weeks ago. The yarn finally came in, which is super exciting, and I picked it up yesterday because I went over and hung out with my mom, and we went to lunch with my aunt for my mom's birthday as a belated girls' luncheon. It was very fun. So yes, we cast on, after lunch my mom and I cast on the sweater together. It was super fun. We watched Victoria, which I have never seen, but I highly enjoy. Would recommend if you're into The Crown and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show it to you now. The yarn is wonderful. The pattern is a little confusing, but that is okay. We'll go into that in just a minute. So let's talk about some yarn. I should say before I get into the yarn what the pattern is called. This pattern is not on Ravelry, which is a problem. Or not a problem, but it's just kind of, it's a bummer, I should say. It's called Mom's Popcorn Bomber by A Nordic Knitting Tale. She does have an Instagram, so I'll link that in the show notes. You can buy this pattern on her website, and there's a bunch of like really amazing pictures on her website, so you can see it there. There's also pictures of it on her Ravelry, or not her Ravelry, she's not a Ravelry, on her Instagram. But it is a bummer that it is not on Ravelry, because I think some confusing things would be cleared up if it was on Ravelry. But that's okay. I'm about to lift out a big bag of plastic, so I apologize for the crinkling. But the yarn we are using, I have a big plastic bag full of yarn. How lovely is that? So wonderful. The yarn we are using is from Drops. I'm using Drops Kid Silk in the color 5. I don't remember what it was called on their website, but it's like the mauve-y, purpley color. And I'm holding that double with this Drops Nepal. And again, I don't remember what this color was called, but together they are beautiful. So that is very exciting. That is what I'm using. I did knit a gauge swatch, people. I was a good knitter. I followed the rules. I didn't want to get it. It is a very small gauge swatch, but I didn't knit a gauge swatch, so let's appreciate that I did that. Here's my tiny little gauge swatch. It was enough to measure the stitches. So this is what my gauge swatch looks like. I really like that when you hold the mohair next to the purple, it looks more pink, but when you knit it up, it really just kind of softens both of them. Does that make sense? It just adds really beautiful dimension. So that is very exciting. So this is my gauge swatch that I did. I got gauge with 7s, so that is very exciting. Then I cast on and was having a marvelous time, and then I got confused by the pattern. So that's okay, you know, that happens. Another thing about this sweater I have mentioned, also I apologize how bright it is. The sun is confused today with the clouds. This is a steeked sweater, so there is a section for the steeked stitches, which I know will be fine, but it is also a little terrifying, but that's okay. You do things in life that terrify you, and then you come out on the other side better and stronger and wiser and just braver. Everything is better. So do things that scare you sometimes. Sometimes they're needed, like steeking. This is what I have so far. It's a top down, so this will be the neckline, and I know that looks very small, but it's gonna, you know what I'm talking about. It's all squishied up on this needle, so the neckline, the neck is definitely much bigger than this. And also I'll be steeking it, so. And also, if you are not a knitter, or if you do not know what steeking is where you, let's see, you reinforce certain stitches with either sewing with the sewing machine, or you can crochet a line and reinforce the stitches, and then you literally cut your knitting. And because you've reinforced the stitches on either side of the stitch that you are cutting, it doesn't unravel. But it's still a very terrifying thought to just kind of like just willy-nilly cut your knitting that you have worked so hard on, especially with like super nice yarn and a project that's like for a special occasion, my mom's birthday. So like I have mentioned in the past, here's the little steeking section right there. So I did that well. I got that down. That's cool. Baby steps, you know. So, like I've said in the past couple episodes, I am looking for steeking tutorials, steeking suggestions, steeking encouragement. I will be, someone asked that I put all the stuff that I pulled together in the episode, or in episode when I talk about it. So I will definitely be doing that. That is a really good idea. I appreciate your feedback on that. Just so if you're interested in steeking and you've never done it, my research can be helpful to you. And that's not to say that there's not other research on the internet, because there's so much research, but I'm going to put together what will have helped me and my mom. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out. So yeah, this is all I have so far. The ribbing at the top was a very small amount, and then you did a bunch of increases to start decreasing. Whoa, caught on my ring. Not decreasing, what am I saying? Increasing for the yoke. So obviously if you start up here, you want to go down and you need to increase so you can create the sleeves. And the next little bit of the pattern was slightly confusing. And I don't know if it's because of the way it was written, or maybe things got a little confused in translation because I don't think it was originally written in English, or I'm just confused. Hopefully it's just me being confused. But the next little bit, which is literally just 2 rows, really confused me. So I'm gonna try and figure that out. Hopefully I will not get too frustrated, because that is always just such a bummer when you're like, yay, new project, I love this, this is so amazing, I love the yarn, I love the color, I don't understand what's going on in this pattern, this is so upsetting, I just want to knit this thing, so sad. So I'm gonna do my best and I'll let you guys know. I'll keep you updated on how that goes. But yes. So my mom is knitting one as well. She is knitting one in navy, which is beautiful. So her main color is a beautiful navy and her mohair is still navy, but it's a slightly lighter color than her main color, I guess. Does that make sense? It's super pretty. I really love how hers is knitting up. I love how mine is knitting up. I think it is gorgeous. I love purple, which is a good reason to knit things in purple. So fun times. Fun times. This is this is Mom's Popcorn Bomber by Nordic Knitting Tale. Not on Ravelry, but I will link her website. Another really exciting thing in my knitting world, if you remember the cardigan that I test knit a couple of weeks ago for Isabel Kramer called the JC cardigan, my mom finished hers just yesterday. She sewed on the buttons and that was super exciting. We went out and we took some really fun pictures of her in it because it was such a beautiful day in Houston. It was glorious. So we had fun taking pictures and they're now up on her Ravelry page, which I will link in the show notes. So if you want to go check out my mom's JC cardigan as well, which you should definitely go do that because it's adorable, I will link that in the show notes. So now we're going to switch gears slightly. This is new crafting territory that I am not familiar with. But, again, do things that you haven't done before. Do things that scare you. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw a picture that I posted on Tuesday, I believe, of fabric. And you might be wondering, what are you going to do with fabric? I did say on the caption of the picture that my first quilt is going to be a very happy quilt. Which means, yes, I'm going to make a quilt, which is super exciting. My mom is going to be showing me how to quilt because she has a super fancy machine. She got a new sewing machine this year, and so she's been taking classes there, which has just been like sewing all over the place, embroidering, super exciting. The machine is incredible, but also learning how to quilt has been something that I've really wanted to do for a long time, and it's just a super fun thing to do together. So, fun times. So because I have never talked about fabric before, really with people in like a technical sense, or like I would about yarn. Like I can't talk about the content of the fabric. I can talk about yarn content all day long, but when it comes to fabric, or like where the fabric is from or who designed the fabric, I don't know any of that information. Maybe you can find that out. I'm sure you could find that out on the bolt of fabric that these things were cut from, but I didn't really think about that when I was picking out my colors, so apologies. While I'm looking at these, I'm also seeing things like names on the little selvage edge, which maybe that is information. I don't really know, but I'm just gonna show you the fabric that I have, and then once I get more information about that and as I move forward with my quilting experience, hopefully I will be able to share that information. So apologies for not knowing what I'm talking about right now, but I'm gonna be learning. So we decided, or we figured out, my mom with her amazing math skills, we figured out that in order to have, let's see, what am I talking about? First off, I'm not doing a pattern. That is, I really like the look of like random squares. I also feel like that squares without a pattern will be easier for a first quilt because it's not like I have to make sure that things are in the right place. But again, I don't really know. I don't know. So this is just kind of an experiment. But anyway, so I'll be doing 8-inch squares, and we figured out that I needed 1 yard of 5 colors. Or 5 yards. And so I had the joy of picking out 5 colors while my mom was taking one of her classes there, which was super exciting. And the yarn store, excuse me, I keep messing up or mixing up my terms in regards to quilting and knitting. I've done that a lot. I was doing that a lot in the actual fabric quilt sewing store, which, if you are interested, this fabric store is amazing. Granted, I have not been to many fabric stores, but this particular fabric store is very wonderful. It's in Katy, Texas, and it's called So Special Quilts. I will link it in the show notes if you would like. They also have an Instagram where they post pictures of stuff that they've gotten in and sales that they have going on. So if you're in the general Katy, Houston area and you're into quilting or any kind of fabric or sewing or embroidery or anything else like that, definitely check them out. So highly recommend. It was also really fun because one of the ladies that helped me, she cut my fabrics, and we also talked about how I would go about finding my fabrics. She was an Aggie and she saw that I was an Aggie, and we had a fun conversation about that, which I thought was very cool and very enjoyable. Everyone who works there is very sweet. But like in knitting, picking colors, for me anyway, is such a hard thing to do, just because there's so many fun options and I don't know which direction I want to go in. I don't know what colors I want to like really focus on or use or whatever, which I know is a very much first world problem, but it's challenging. There's just so many fun options, and especially with their fabric choice and selection, there were so many fun things to pick from. So this lady, I don't remember her name, so I apologize for that, but the thing that she told me when I was picking out my fabrics, pick out one that makes your heart sing and then go off of that, which I thought was a super cool thing to just kind of like lay your foundation and figure out where you wanted to start and what you can go off of. And I know that it can also apply to knitting, especially with like yarns and speckles and colors and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to fabric, because there's so much more like design elements, like pineapples. You wouldn't see pineapples on yarn. So you would pick something like that that just makes you super happy, and then use that as a starting point for all your other colors or whatever you're looking for. So if that applies to some creative outlet that you are trying to figure out things in, hopefully that is helpful for you. Just pick something that really makes you happy and then go off of that. So words of crafterly wisdom. Anyway, so I keep waving around my fabrics, and now I'll actually show you my fabrics. So, referring back to what we just talked about, the fabric that I picked out that really just made me super excited was this pineapple fabric. And I mean, like, can we go wrong with pineapples? I don't know if this is right side up or right. There we go. I think that's the right way up. Can we go wrong with pineapples? No, we can't. They're just so cute. This just made me so happy. So I just really like pineapples. I really like eating pineapples. I think they're delicious, but I also, there's a thing they're like a saying, not a thing, but it's like a saying that's been going around the internet for a while, that has to do with pineapples, and so I had to look up this quote because I cannot remember what it is, or the saying that's been going around on the internet. So usually it has a picture of a pineapple, and it says, "Be a pineapple, stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside," which I think is super cool and just very like, do good, be a good person, be nice to people, stand tall, be proud of yourself, wear a crown, because why not? Be a pineapple. And so because of that, I just really like just pineapples in general. Plus they're also just very happy looking fruits, and how can you go wrong with a happy looking fruit? That's number one. So I built off of that, and I came up with this guy, which is a very like mustardy mustard. With this really pretty geometric print. Then I came up with this flamingo print, which was next to the pineapple print, and this one was actually the hardest one to pick because I had picked all 4 of them, and this was my last one. But I just really love the flamingos. Another thing that makes me really happy. Then I have this navy. I apologize, this is very hard for you to see, but if you haven't seen, I recommend you go looking at the picture of my Instagram because it's just better represented there. And my last color is this pink diamondy thing. So there's the pink one. I'll hold these up so you can see them. There's this navy one. The flamingos. Super cute. The geometric mustard. And then the best one, the pineapples. So, all together, I think it'll be a beautiful, beautiful quilt. Having said that, I've never made a quilt. But I do love quilts. And there's all of them together. So I think it'll be super fun. I'm very, very happy with how my fabric choices turned out. Yeah, I'm super excited about this. And I'm very excited to do this with my mom, just because we learned how to knit together, and now she's gonna teach me how to quilt so we can quilt together, and that's just super fun. So fun crafty stuff is ahead, yay! So we have baking and we have organizational things to talk about. Which we do first? I don't know. I see I'm also running out of time on my SD card, so let us speed things along. Recipe-wise, baking-wise, let's do that first. Last week I mentioned that I was going to be making brownies from scratch for the first time, or for the first time in a very long time. They turned out amazing. I love them. They were great. So I'll be including that recipe in the show notes for sure. I don't remember where the blog was or what the blog's name was. I just found it on Pinterest like I do everything else. So yes, highly recommend if you're looking for a brownie from scratch recipe. I did some more baking on Monday. I found a recipe for ginger doodles, which you might be thinking, what in the world is a ginger doodle? In my mind, when I heard that, I was like, I don't know what that is, but that is a super cute name. They're cookies. Let's make them. So what ginger doodles are, it's a mixture of a ginger snap and a snickerdoodle. You probably were able to figure that out because very obvious. There's not a whole lot of confusion, but they're super amazing. They're very, very gingery. So if you like the flavor of ginger in general, these are the cookies for you. Now, normally I am not a ginger person. I like ginger snaps, I like ginger ale, I like ginger beer sometimes, but if it's like a ginger mint or like a slice of ginger, I'm not about that. I'm not a fan of that ginger taste, but these ginger doodle cookies are just like on the fine line of being too much ginger and being just regular ginger. Does that make sense? It's like the perfect amount of ginger. It's enough ginger to make me feel like, ooh, this is really bitey, but I love it. Does that make sense? I don't know. I highly recommend this recipe. Again, I don't know where the blog or what the blog's name is, but I will link it in the show notes for sure. They're super easy to make. I think the stuff in the cookies you would have just laying around in your pantry. I think the only abnormal things in the cookies was molasses and then maybe cream of tartar. I don't know if that's a thing that everyone has in their pantries, but I happen to have some, thank goodness. And I got molasses when I went to the grocery store. So it all worked out really great, and they're amazing. Highly, highly recommend. So also this week I did a lot of organizational things, specifically having to do with my knitting and crafting stuff. If you've been watching for a while, especially after we've moved and I've been in this new room, which is amazing because there's a fan, which is so nice, but that's not relevant to organizational things. In the past, I have looked off to this side and have said, or it's also been over there, but it's been over here for the past couple of weeks. it was a box still full of needles, notions, bags, projects, everything. And so when I was looking for something and I couldn't find it, it was most likely in this box. I went through that box. It's gone. I mean, the box is still here, but it's empty and everything's been put away and organized, and it's so amazing. So happy. So I was able to find all my project bags, all the like canvas totes, the little project bags that are super cute that I've collected over the years, random bags that I've just saved over the years again, and I got rid of ones that I didn't want anymore to give away, and then I like neatly organized and folded up the ones that I do want to keep and put them in like a little, is it in here? I don't think it's in here, but it's just like in a little box. So if I need a project bag, I can go to this box and just pull one off the top, or I can easily sift through the ones that I have folded and saved in there, finding the one that I'm looking for. So I'm super excited about that. Stuff like that just makes me feel really successful and just very put together. But I know that does not define what is a put together person, but it just makes me feel good about myself and my organizational skills, if you know what I mean. So that is very exciting. I also went through all my needles because I pulled out all my old whips. I pulled out every single whip that I have and either frogged it or put it into the finish pile. Very few projects made it into the to finish pile. Almost everything got frogged. Everything. That was so much frogging. It felt so good, except for the projects that were very like stuck together. That was a little challenging, but I powered through it and got it all done, and oh my goodness, I feel so good about that. Like, that's just super exciting. Again, I feel more organized, and it's just like, I feel really good about this. I don't feel guilty about the projects that I have languishing tucked away in places that I can't see and stuff like that. So now I have everything, literally all my knitting projects are out in the living room, and it's just, it takes up like a little corner. It's all in a little box, or like a little cloth tub thing. That didn't make sense, but I've diminished the number of whips down considerably, which means I've also freed up needles, yarn, and bags for other things to be used for. Does that make sense? I can use them for other things. You understand. So that is super exciting. I found projects that I had cast on that I was just not excited about anymore, and wish that I could use the yarn for other projects and things that I want to knit in the future, and just frog them. Like, I didn't even have a second thought about it. I was just like, this does not make me happy, and I really want to use this yarn for something else, so see you later. I also need these needles. So many good things came from this. So if you have the time, or if you have the inclination to just really go through your knitting and just kind of get rid of the things, or frog or repurpose or whatever, give away things that just don't make you happy anymore, do the KonMari method on your knitting. That's really what it comes down to. If something doesn't give you joy, then why are you still knitting on it? You should just give it away, or you should repurpose the yarn. Then that way you have more needles, you have more bags, you have more yarn options. So many good things. I would recommend you doing this, but it is very time consuming because it is very easy to get distracted because there's just yarn everywhere, especially if you have your computer with you, because you might be watching a TV show or you might be listening to a podcast. You might have Ravelry pulled up and you might get distracted looking for patterns for things to knit with this new refound yarn. It's not a bad thing because you're knitting with stash and you're making plans to knit with stash. That's wonderful, but it is very time consuming. So if you want to do that, make sure you have all day or like an afternoon, or work on it a little bit at a time. Work at it at your own pace. But I would recommend doing it because I just feel so much knitting freedom now. To knit, to not like go crazy and cast on thousands and thousands of things. even though I might want to do that, I know that like I feel a little bit better because I frogged at least 10 projects that I didn't really want to knit on anymore. So that's super exciting. Excuse me. Super exciting. I still have a lot of projects, but again, the number is not as big. It seems much more manageable now. I am looking forward to maybe trying to get all my whips down to a good number. I feel like that is more possible now, just because I know exactly how many whips I have, which I haven't counted, so I don't know exactly, but I do know that they're all out there and I can count them if I want to. So that is really exciting. That just makes me feel much better about my knitting self. But yes, this is super rambly, but knitting organization stuff is very good. It's super fun. It's enjoyable because you're surrounded by yarn, you're surrounded by creative stuff. It's very inspiring. That's just also really a wonderful thing about it, because you can see these things that you've knit with that you might not be happy with, but you're gonna repurpose it, you're gonna knit something else with it, and the possibilities are endless. There might be new patterns out now that you didn't know about beforehand. You've discovered a new designer. I don't know. You realize you might not need as much as you needed before, so you can only use one skein and then save the other for another thing. I don't know, the possibilities are endless. It's just very inspirational. I highly recommend going through your knitting. How many times can I say that? I don't know. But apologies for repeating myself. Going through your knitting is fun, so would recommend. So I went through all my knitting projects, and then I also went through my needles, like I said, and now I have a basket full of needles. Organized. Granted, is this the best organizational system? No. But this is what I have, and it works, and it looks really cute, so it's kind of like a decoration piece almost, because it's in a cute little basket that I don't know where it came from. It's pretty awesome. I'm really happy with how this worked out. Fun times. I also found that I have another set of interchangeable needles. I don't know where these came from. They're the boy ones from Michael's, I'm assuming. I didn't know I had these. So that was a fun realization. These probably are not like my needle of choice, but I'm super glad to know that I have them, so if I'm in a pinch, I can be like, I have these ones. I know I can use them. Super great. I found all the bags that I keep my needles in. Everything got put back where it's supposed to be. And like I said, this is not going to be my organizational system for my needles for forever. I would really like to get one of those like cloth containers for them at some point, because I just think that looks much more neat and tiny, and that way I can get rid of the bag so it's not so like bulky. But in the meantime, super wonderful, super awesome. So we have had a pretty full episode this week. We've talked about knitting, crafting in general, quilting, baking, organizational stuff, being inspired by our knitting. Lots of stuff that include random ramblings that I don't remember what I rambled about, so apologies. But I think that is all that I have to talk about this week. So, with that, like I said at the beginning, if you would like to find links to any of the things that I talked about, or if you would just like to go and check them out, the link to the show notes will be in the down bar if you are on YouTube, or if you're on my blog, they'll be down below. Links to all my various social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Ravelry. All of that will be linked everywhere, so if you would like to go follow me on any of those things, you are more than welcome to. I am most active on Instagram because I just love looking at pictures. I also have things like Goodreads, and I have a Pinterest, which I will link in the show notes as well. I don't think I have in the past, so apologies, but I will link that in the show notes this week. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. It means a whole lot that you guys come back every single week. You leave comments, you like, you subscribe, all of that stuff. That means so much to me, so I really appreciate you, and I thank you. I hope you have had a wonderful week, and I hope you continue to have a wonderful weekend. If you have crafty plans, I hope they are successful. I am just feeling really good about my crafty plans. I feel really happy about what I have on the needles and what I can work on. I am also going to try and figure out this guy. That was very nondescript. This thing. I'm gonna try and figure this out. Oh, it might be a little sad, a little scary, but we're gonna do it. Figure out what the pattern is saying. So hopefully that is successful. Fingers crossed for me. Fun times are ahead. Woo. So I guess that is all that I have to say for this week, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!